Take 5. No. Hi, this is Glenn Denman. Of course, working on the bus again, and putting out another bus video. This time, the bus video is going to be on the solar panels. And again, I thought I'd include my wife in this video. I kind of like the way Ivan LaCroix does his with his wife. They just kind of start the video out sitting side by side with each other. And this is our little dog Molly. I don't know if I ever introduced her. Anyway, so today's video is going to be on building the rack on top of the bus for the solar panels. Now, some people they attach the solar panels right to the roof, and that way the panels on one side are kind of tilted in one direction, the panels on the other side are kind of tilted in another direction. So I wanted them to all just be flat, and I mean the most ideal would be if you could tilt the panels up and down as you know the sun moves or whatever. But that's just getting a little bit too involved for me. So basically, so I made a roof rack on top of the bus that's flat, and I'll show you that here in a few minutes. It consists of two 2-inch angle aluminum runs all the way down each side of the bus, and then about 8 or so horizontal runs going side by side to support that. And then, of course, I've got another video earlier on how I attach the little supports to the rooftop. So those are all threaded right into the structural frame, and then they're glued down with the 3M 5200 product. So, but anyway, so I've got about $650 into the aluminum, and then the solar panels themselves, I think I have about $1,000 into those. But those panels they're a 39 volt open circuit, 305 watts, and I only have 4 of them, but I have room for about 6 more. And so I built the whole rack for the whole panel array. And of course I have room for the other items that need to stick out of the roof as well, as far as roof vents and stuff go. So this really is a video on how I did this setup for my bus. This may not work for other people's buses or RVs. But it works for us, and I think it's going to work pretty well. So anyway, so that video will be coming up, and hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hi, my name's Glenn. This is Karen, my wife, and this is our bus. What I'm doing today here is I've got some of these solar panel brackets built up here. My son had given me a bunch of aluminum tubing. If you can see it down there, it came off of a boat. And basically what I'm doing here is, this is about an inch and just under 2 inches of tube, aluminum tube. It's pretty thick wall, probably 3/16 of an inch thick wall. It's heavier than really what I needed, but and I've got a stainless steel bolt going through here. Each one of these brackets, I have an earlier video on installing these brackets. And of course I've sealed all the roof and everything, and before I put the solar panels up. And so basically these are at the right height. So I'll have an 1.5 inch piece of angle aluminum that'll sit on top of each one of these all the way down. If you can see all those, I've got them all on there. And they'll stop just short of the front. I'm not sure how I'm going to terminate at the front just yet, but for the most part they're all in there. And so I'll have a piece of aluminum going across, which will just clear the roof by about 1/4 inch. So I'll put a piece of aluminum on the roof itself to create a center support. That way there's only about 3.5 feet spanning on each side of that relatively light aluminum there. And so that should be plenty solid. By the time I put my solar panels up here, I'll have about 1 foot in between them, so I can have an aisleway, so I can climb out of the opening in the roof and have an aisleway to walk down and service them. And then the ones that I'm going to put at the front half of the bus, I'll use the same access panel or access roof access, and I can walk up and clean those panels as well. That front one really won't work for that because of the way it opens, but I'm going to use that for something else. So anyway, So what I've done here is I've cut each one of these pieces are bolted in with a about 1.75 inch or so stainless steel bolt. I've got some washers in between here, and I like the fact that this is just a little bit narrower than my channel here, because water can run down past the sides and come back out, provided it's clean, of course. And I've also cut a notch in the bottom of each one of these. I'm going to seal the top so water can't get down inside, because it'll get down in there and it'll freeze, and it'll split this thing apart. So this way I'm going to seal the top. What little bit of water does get in there will hopefully drain out this little hole. Each one of them has that. So anyway, so as I progress here, I'm going to go ahead, and I don't have all the aluminum just yet today to do this, because it's kind of a work in progress, and I keep buying stuff that I think I'm going to use, and then I end up not using it, and it costs you a lot of money to do that. You got to make sure that when you buy these materials that you have a good plan going. So, but anyway, but I've got a pretty good plan going now, and I'll have a piece going across each one of these all the way down, and then I'll have a 2-inch by 2-inch angle aluminum that'll start about a foot past this tube, all the way down, full length each side. That way it looks nice and continuous on the outside of the bus, so you're not going to see the edges of the solar panels or any gaps or brackets or things like that. It should be pretty clean looking installation. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. Okay, everybody, so I've got my midpoint brackets here installed. So basically, the piece that goes across, the angle piece goes across being 1.5 inch angle aluminum. It'll bolt onto the sides and sit on top of the tube. It'll come up and it'll just shear up right next to this bracket here, and I'll put some bolts through here, or screws, whichever I decide, and that'll support the middle of it. So so basically the angle that's going across is only going to have about 3 feet of span without support on each side. And being that it's one continuous piece, it's not like it's got a hinge point here or anything like that, so it should be pretty solid. Anyway, so that's looking pretty good if you look down through there. And the next step will be to put my horizontal pieces in this way, and then I'll have my lengthwise pieces coming down both sides, and that'll be the next step. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so one thing that I forgot to mention a minute ago is the line of steel underneath. There's a hat channel underneath the rib that makes up the rib of the bus here, and so these rivets represent the part of the hat that's up against the roof there. So I've got these fastened down similar to what I've got these fastened down. They're glued down and everything, and they're really snug and tight, but they're going right into that line of steel that goes all the way through there. There's a line of steel here and a line of steel about here approximately, and I chose to mount everything a little bit away from the rib, or from the actual seam here. That way I'm not getting into the seam or too close to the seam. You start monkeying with that right in there, and it can kind of make that lift or alter. So anyway, so that should be pretty watertight, so I'm not really concerned about it at all. I think it'll be just fine. So okay, so I just wanted to show the radius that I put on the top corner of these uprights. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I put a round radius right here because the angle aluminum, when it sits on here, it has an inside corner that isn't perfectly square. It's kind of round. So anyway, that way the angle piece will sit right on here nice and bolt up tight to it. So I hate to use the bus as a parts hauler, but sometimes it's necessary. So I've got my aluminum in here. It's 25 feet long down the length of the bus here. I was able to load it in through the door, and so I'm going to go ahead and unload that. So So I give a little close-up here as to what's going on here. So it's starting to get pretty hot out. It's supposed to, by 8 o'clock this morning, it was 80 degrees. And so I'm gonna put my hat on and stuff here pretty quick. Anyway, so to just kind of show a little close-up of what's happening here, I've got 2 more to put on. These are just, I'm just putting screws in for now to hold it until I come back through and put all my bolts in, so the screws will stay in place. The screws make things nice and tight. The stainless steel bolts will make things nice and strong. So not that the screws don't have any strength, but between the screws and the bolts it should be in pretty good shape. So basically what I've done here is I've filled all these tubes with spray foam. Might seem kind of weird, but that way they just can't collect a bunch of water inside. And then I'm capping it off. I'm actually gluing these down to it, and then I'm finishing off putting a silicone over the rest of it just for protection, and it should last quite a few years like that. Between the thing being solid, water shouldn't be able to penetrate too much. If it ever does, it won't be much. So mostly for freezing purposes. Anyway, so I've got my my middle piece here, which will get 2 1/4-inch bolts here, and then the one screw in the middle will stay. So that way I have 2 bolts and a screw at each center piece. Then I'll have 1 bolt and a screw at each end, and these are pretty solid. So they should hold the solar panels pretty well. This one here was going to be, I was going to put these 2 by the hatchways. I was going to just hang them off to the side of the tube instead of on top of it, because the rest of them I have so the wind doesn't catch the cavity here. It's more blown up against the flat side. But these 2 here, I decided to go ahead and flip these around so they're actually backwards, but at least they're sitting on top of the tube instead of up against the tube. And then I'll just have to come here. I'll have to cut this off about a 1/2 inch right here, so I can get this door open, because I definitely want to keep these doors in play. And so the other one at the other end, I haven't quite figured out what I'm gonna do with it just yet, but I'll probably do something similar to this. The ends of these, even though they're all pretty close to being the same projection, they don't have to be exact, because my 2-inch piece is going to sit on top here, and it can hang over a little bit or a little less or whatever. So those pieces will dictate their own straightness down the sides. So that's where that is. So I'll go ahead and continue videotaping as I put the rest of the hardware on. So on these layout, I've got these side runners extending as far back this way as I can get them, so that I can still splice my next piece on top of a frame member. So the problem is the solar panel is going to go another 4 inches beyond that. I was just hoping to use these to completely cover the edge, but I'd rather have the splice be on a frame member than to worry about 4 inches of solar panels sticking out past the end. So time to have breakfast. So I thought I'd go and just show where I'm at with this. I've got pretty much the whole rack installed except for the internal parts, the internal runners for the inside of the solar panels. The solar panels are going to come to about 6 inches from the center. So this square, and so I still have yet to put aluminum here, but I'm going to set the panels in place before I do that, or at least one, just to test before I determine where I'm going to put this next set of bars. So I have 2 bars going from the roof hatch access to the back, sticking out as far as that, and then the front, that'll be for 4 panels there. In the front, I'll have 4 panels up here in this front area. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll have 2 bars that'll go down the middle here to serve those 4 panels. Then here, this is where I'm going to try to get at least 2 more panels in here. I may end up putting them lengthwise this way instead of this way, because of the fact that I'm only going to have 2 up here in this middle portion. So I should be able to get one across here that'll stop about here, give me plenty of room for my vents and stuff that's going to come through the ceiling here, and then that's going to take some figuring. But if I have to, if it's going to come too far over this way, then I'll just go ahead and put it lengthwise this way. But of course I won't be able to put it all the way up against the side because of my roof vent, unless I do something different with the roof vent, which I'd rather not do. But anyway, so that's going to take some designing here. So I should be able to get 2 more panels, which will make 10 panels, and these are 305 watt panels, 39 volt open circuit, I believe they're called, and they're regular house panels. And anyway, so 10 of those will give me over 3,000 watts of power, and so that should be pretty good. So basically what I've got here is I've got all these upper and lower bolts in. So I've got a screw here just holding it together as I was assembling, and same thing here, screws. But then I went ahead and put my bolts in here with the nylock nuts. Bolt here, nylock nut. Got a bolt down here with the nylock. And then of course this is all bolted to the roof, so this is very, very substantial. And each one of these are done like that, all the way down. And I've got the top of the tubes sealed off just to keep water from getting down inside. And of course the tubes are full of foam anyway, so that's what is happening. And then I've got my center bolts in. Started out with a screw just to hold it in place, and then I put my 2 bolts in, and so those are done all the way down as well. So this thing's sure changing the looks of the bus. So the bus is quite a bit different now, and I'll go ahead and share just kind of the way the bus looks here real quick from the side view. So it changes the look of the bus quite a bit there, and I've got some cleaning to do there. And I might end up just taking some paint, etch that aluminum a little bit, and paint just that end rail, or that side rail there, black, just to look, just kind of go along with the windows and the tires, I guess. I don't know, I'll figure that out someday. In the meantime, I mainly just want it to function. This front part here, I'm not sure what to do with it. The material just happened to end up right there. I could cut that off further. I left it hanging out there thinking I could just stabilize it where it is. I'm not sure if I'm gonna leave that sticking out that far or not. I might get some harmonic vibration in there. I'm not sure. I'll probably drive the bus around a little bit and just see. It looks a little hokey to me, sticking out that far like that. But at least I've got that whole rack up there, and so the next step will be installing the panels themselves. So appreciate everybody watching. We'll see how the rest of those panels go in. Okay, so I've got the 4 solar panels on now. These are 39 volt open circuit, like I probably already mentioned. They're 305 watts a piece, and they're about 39 inches by 55 inches, I think. So I've got a nice little aisleway in between them here that I can walk down. I can open up the roof hatch, and I can come out here and clean them or whatever. As you can see, they're dirty, but of course I'm not using them yet. So on the final mounting of them, of course, I've got this 1.5" angle aluminum going down on each side of the panels. This is bolted down to this 1.5" aluminum here. These pieces are bolted down to the bracket on the roof. These brackets here, I may have showed during the regular taping of the video, but these brackets here, if I can get up close here, these are shaped just right so that the panel fits super tight inside there. And this piece here is bolted down. Well, actually this piece isn't bolted down here, it's bolted through here. So this has a bolt going through it, and it's threaded all the way through, and there's 3 on each side of the panels. The other piece is bolted down at the perimeter on each side. There's 2 of those pieces. The one actually shares 2 panels, and there's 2 panels share 1 piece or whatever. So basically this is the completion of the project for now, but I plan on getting more panels and installing them at the front. 4 more like this, and then 2 more on this side. I should be able to fit all those up there and still have room in the middle here for my Fantastic fans or my Max Air fans. I'm going to use Max Air fans actually. So this came out pretty well. Actually, these panels here that I got here, they were new, but I got them at a really good price because they were like an overstock at a local place. And if I can't get any more of these panels, then it just so happens that the spacing between the 2 perimeter 2-inch angle aluminums are just right so that I can put 200-watt panels end to end, end to end, end to end like that as I work my way back, and they'll fit just right in between with maybe a 1/4 of an inch to spare. So that's going to be pretty nice. And one thing about these panels being up here is that they will have to stay clean. You know, if they're dirty, they're not going to put out as much power. So a guy needs to clean them on a somewhat regular basis. So you need to make them to where they're at least accessible for that. So anyway, so that's it for this video. And I'm going to put all these videos together and see how they come out. It's kind of a compilation of videos, and it takes quite a bit of time to go through all these videos and determine which ones fit together and things like that. So, but hopefully this will be some good information for anybody that's wanting to do something similar to their bus. So thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.